Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me as always, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's going on is today is our Thunderbolts episode. Obviously, as always, we will do kind of a spoiler-free session up at top, and then we'll dive into full spoilers with timestamps allotted below, and that's pretty much all we're going to cover this week. We both did finish Claire Obscure Expedition 33 this week, but we'll probably circle back to that next week's episode and do a spoiler cast there. So if you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with friends, all of that fun stuff. But first things first, Cam, just overview, spoiler-free thoughts. What did you think of Thunderbolts here?
I think Thunderbolts is a fantastic film. I think that this is, I believe this was supposed to be the end of Phase 5 of the kind of Marvel
cinematic. It is now the end of Phase 5. Yeah. I don't know if it was supposed to be back when there was a bigger Kang arc, but yeah.
Yeah, we are where we're at now, and this film, I think, stands above a lot of recent ones. I think that Deadpool and Wolverine was probably the last one that we had at like this level of caliber when it comes to just a really good film.
Which is basically 2 movies ago.
Yeah. Fair, totally fair. I think that
I agree with this sentiment, though. I think post Endgame has been a lot of like roller coaster ups and downs with no real consistency built up.
Which I think was I think in looking back on it now that you mentioned consistency, I think that was kind of the thing back in the day, is that you could believe that when you went to see a Marvel film, a level of consistency meant that you had kind of like an even-keeled experience no matter what, really. And it's just because of how the formula was built out for such a long time. But in this kind of new era with, a lot of real-life situation changes, Wakanda Forever suffering from, Chadwick Boseman's death. You have the issue with
pandemic era.
The pandemic era, yeah.
All the strikes.
The strikes. You have the like Kang going from being the prime enemy to, as quickly as we can, just kind of
persona non grata.
Yeah, persona non grata. Get that moved out of the way, and like looking over it, it's the landscape of where they were. I'm sure they were planning Phase 4 and Phase 5 has not gone the way they expected it to. For them to kind of like then look at a film like the Thunderbolts and recalibrate it, kind of bringing a little bit of that Guardians magic of the idea of some underdogs, kind of rising up to meet a challenge much bigger than they should be able to, contend with. It has a lot of heart, and it has a lot of good of people who, have been sort of the villains or the anti-heroes of their own stories kind of come together in a moment to, for all intents and purposes, try to save the world, right? Like that's the point of this film. Thunderbolts, as far as like the property goes, has always been like the Marvel version of the Suicide Squad. People often think that it's related to Thunderbolt Ross. It's not.
That was one of the things I was going to say. Is I was surprised that does not come up, but
yeah. There's that's like a general misconception that people have about the Thunderbolts. In the past, General Ross has been in charge of the Thunderbolts, so like it's not without people's like precedence of like that happening at least. But when it comes to this film, I think that it just really is about people who haven't had a good run at things, doing their best to just try to put a little good in the world, and kind of what pays off with that. And I think leading them is the person who's gone through maybe the most in Bucky. Sebastian Stan and Florence Pugh really take the stage as the leads of this film. And I think the characters that they have, the characters that they are, the kind of transitional work that Bucky has been through since his return in The Winter Soldier, and kind of just this full-on, heroic arc he's been on, he is kind of the perfect person to be the leader of the Thunderbolts. But the heart of the Thunderbolts is Yelena. Yelena Romanov, the new Black Widow, introduced in the Black Widow film.
Yelena Belova.
Belova, sorry.
While they are sisters, they were not biological sisters to Natasha.
My apologies. But yeah, no, Yelena taking over kind of this, like, she's been doing a lot of, sorry, that's getting into some spoiler territory, so I'll back off a little bit. I will say, as somebody who has been dealing with like what is the purpose of my life recently, like in like some big transitional stuff that's happened to me over the last year and a half, 2 years. This movie struck home in a way I wasn't expecting, and kind of was a reminder that it's like a not as much as it is an isolating experience to go through it. You're not alone in being the only one going through these things, and it can happen at any point in your life. But I just loved the heart and the idea of like what is it to be more than just yourself, and what does it mean to put your chips down on the table and buy in to what it means to be a hero in the case of this film. And I think that they do that spectacularly. My rating on this is I'm going to be giving it like an 8.5 out of 10. This rate's really high with me. I really, really enjoyed this film. This will be a film that I'm going to want to watch on like Disney Plus when it comes out.
Sure.
So,
yeah, I really enjoyed this as well. And it was like a fun, like this movie probably more than any others has been the, I don't care. I don't care about the Thunderbolts. Like this was like we have reached that point, and I don't think it's saturation or anything like that. It's just like, hey, they haven't been hitting, stellar creative ideas. Because I'm still happy to watch the shows. I'm still happy to see the Marvel saga continue. I just want it to be more consistently better than it has been in all of the, like, you can see all of the plans juggling in a lot of recent movies. Whereas this one is the first one in a little while that feels like it didn't, suffer from reshoots or wasn't completely blown up by casting changes. Like there were casting changes. We'd heard reports that Stephen Yeun had been originally cast as Bob, but because of the strikes and when they finally went into production on it, couldn't do it. So they ended up going with Lewis Pullman instead. But like, the film still seems to be largely, what its original intent was. So I appreciated that. I think, centering it around somebody like Florence Pugh already got a little bit of a leg up in terms of like, okay, this is going to be a performance that's going to really anchor the film and do a good job of buying in onto that. And so, I think also it benefits from low expectations. It very much is going into this, everybody being like, okay, this is going to be like, the Marvel Suicide Squad in the same way that we kind of thought Guardians of the Galaxy was. Guardians of the Galaxy, however, had the benefit of no baggage. Like, we didn't know any of those characters going into it. This one, we know a lot of these characters, and a lot of these characters just nobody cares about. Or, like, they've been, like, well, there's an element of, if you've been watching everything, you might know these characters a little bit. Like, Ghost. Okay, I remember Ghost from the second Ant-Man movie. And that's about the only thing she's appeared in and turned up in. So
that is the only thing she's ever appeared in.
Then
there's no show edition or anything.
Yeah, you've got like John Walker, who's like, okay, if you watch the
Falcon Winter
Soldier show, okay, he was there, cool. Yelena was in Black Widow. She also popped up in Hawkeye. Same with Red Guardian in Black Widow. So it's like, okay, this is almost like a proto, like the original Avengers movie. Oh, all these characters have popped up in like another thing, but even in those other things, they were never the focal point of their other thing. So that this was very much one that I told you a couple times this weekend. You asked if we would go see it basically in lieu of our normal Saturday night D&D night. We went with your brother-in-law and sister and had a great time. But if we hadn't done that, my pitch was going to be like, hey, do you want to maybe see it today, Sunday, as we're recording this? And if not, no big deal. Like, this was the first one I would have been perfectly fine just not seeing it in theaters, even though word of mouth last week had been really good coming out of it. And so I'm glad we ended up seeing it. It's still one just because of, like, I'm more interested in other things. I would have been fine if I hadn't seen it this weekend.
For sure, yeah.
But, we did, so it was fun. We can do this podcast. And I was very pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it, how how it still felt like it has kind of the Marvel mainstays and like quippy, scripts and stuff like that. But also felt like it was, yeah, this is a group of like misfits and failures realizing that they kind of suck and still trying, like, basically looking for redemption, not necessarily getting redemption.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But they, they're trying to be better. They're trying to not be as shitty as they've been, I would say.
I think that's the best way to put it. They're just doing their best not to be bad.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, that's super relatable. Yeah. As somebody who like I mentioned earlier, Yelena is going through like some like, crisis of purpose and like crisis of existence, which says a lot as somebody who got blinked, right? She got blinked. That's the term that you're using, right? Blinked.
Yeah. Blipped.
Blipped. There we go. That's it. I'm like, it's not blinked. It's something else. But I know they decided not to go with snapped. But yeah, so she got blipped. So like 5 years of her life are gone. And that time her sister died. And like, it's a whole thing that she went through. Like if you watch Hawkeye.
It was basically like she was a traumatic Black Widow for most of her life. Then she gets blipped and she comes back and finds her sister's dead. And so, yeah, like she's had a bad life.
Oh, yeah. And when she tries to go after the person she thinks is responsible, Clint Hawkeye, just Hawkeye,
Clinton Barton.
Yeah, there you go. When she goes after him, only to basically come to a realization that he's not really to blame, that she sacrificed her life, that she made the choice, and he's still broken up and like battered about it emotionally and like spiritually as well. And it's her, like them both coming to terms with their grief and then, parting ways. She's still reeling from like, what is the point? Because before it was going after previous Black Widows and like waking them up if they're still under control or anything. But now it's just like, yeah, she's aimless. And I think that does such a great start of, it's kind of like, oh, this is the kind of person that our kind of central quote unquote villain is apt to manipulate.
Sure, yeah. I think the other elements before we dive into spoiler stuff I want to touch on. I really like the look and design of like the big bad's like powers.
Oh,
in this. I almost wish we hadn't seen it in the trailers because it's such a like jarring, like especially the way they use it in the film. The first time you see it, it's like if that had been the first time any of us had seen that, it would have been like, holy shit. But because like we knew it was coming, it was just kind of a matter of time on when we saw that that shadow hole of a person kind of thing.
But I think the great thing we got to see they were hiding it from us, the juxtaposition with the superhero, right? The super form, the Sentry. And I mentioned to you last night, like they captured who the Sentry is perfectly in the comic books.
Sure.
And they did such a great job with it. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. As somebody who's a longtime comic book fan, especially a longtime Marvel comic book fan, getting to see like this version of the Thunderbolts, which is not who you typically consider the Thunderbolts, with the exception of Yelena. Yelena as the Black Widow is often tied into the Thunderbolt stuff. But yeah, overall, I just thought it was fantastic. I had such a great time with it. I'm giving it like an 8.5. Where are you sitting on it?
Probably an 8 for me.
Solid.
It reaches greatness. And there's nothing really bad from it, but there also wasn't a bunch that like that blew me away. I would say I will say I guess the third act stuff, I appreciated that it was different than a lot of Marvel third act stuff.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
So I appreciated that uniqueness to it and the way that the team overcomes it, which we'll talk about a little bit more in the spoiler stuff. But it also it has great action throughout. There's a lot of fun moments there. It is a fun like team getting together that and they know are crappy.
Oh yeah,
and
they're not a good
like,
team.
They know they suck.
Oh yeah,
and so a lot of the fun and humor comes from that and how that works in their favor and how others can underestimate that. That piece of it. There were a few things that I'm just like, that kind of went nowhere. We'll talk about a little bit in spoiler stuff. That I think kind of bring it down a little bit for me.
Sure.
And in the overall grand scheme of things, I'm sitting here also trying to think, like, what would a 10 out of 10 Thunderbolts movie what would that have had to have been? And I don't know if it could have been.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know if a 10 out of 10 to Thunderbolts movie exists, because of just, it's like, there's a ceiling on how much I'm going to care about these characters anyway. And this I think hits the ceiling for me.
Yeah.
Of it did a good job of making, like, I think even maybe it could have been an 8.5 or a 9 if everyone in the Thunderbolts got, a little bit more love and care, as opposed to it's mostly Yelena, a little bit of Bucky, a little bit of Red Guardian. But there are definitely a couple members that it's like, okay, yeah, you're still like, you were just kind of here coming into it, and you're also just here coming out of it. And I'm like, I don't care. They do
Walker and Ghost.
Walker and Ghost being the two big ones, I would say there. And then, but I did like that. Like, I was thinking about it, and I think this is one of a case of a really good introduction to a new character that we've had for the first time in a while with Bob.
Oh, yeah.
I like how much of Bob we get in this. I like how much of his backstory we get, and kind of the struggles that he's dealing with, and yeah, obviously his power up stuff ends up being pretty cool. So yeah, I think it's just like, if you're doing a team thing, like, everybody on the team should get their moments to shine, and a couple of them just still don't. They use their powers and stuff, but it's whatever. So
I think part of the problem is that what are you seeing from Walker that you haven't already seen from Captain America, or even in, Sam Wilson's Captain America is arguably a far more impressive Captain America than Walker still.
Yeah.
Like, Walker is this, like, I think the best line ever was Junior Varsity Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
Just straight up to his face. Like, and like, if you watched Falcon and Winter Soldier, that is apt.
Yeah. And that's a lot of what this movie is. It is calling out the fact that, like, hey, there are better versions of all of these people.
Oh, yeah. Ghost is such a great example of somebody who is honestly not that impressive as an antagonist, and also not that impressive as a hero in the film. But I do think that she is such a great, like, bonus asset to have as the team. It's like, somebody needs to go grab this or do that, and she's the good one to have for that.
They call it out as a joke in the film, and I'm pretty sure it's been in the trailers and stuff because I'd seen it before. Of like, so what? We all just punch and kick, and that's it. That's what we all do. We suck. Yelena saying that to the group at one point, where it is like, yeah, you all have basically the same ability set. One of you might be a little bit superpowered. One of you can kind of, phase in and out of existence and whatnot. But, like, you don't have, magical things that you can shoot from your fingers, or you can't fly and all that stuff. So
you don't have a high-tech super suit. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is like, okay, yeah, you are basically just all boots on the ground. It's a squad of Black Widows and Hawkeyes. And even the Hawkeyes, Hawkeye had incredible precision. I don't know what else these guys have. So it is like, okay, yeah, this is. I joked. I was like, yeah, it's like the D list of D tier teams. So
which is what the Thunderbolts have always been in the comics.
Exactly. It's by design.
Yeah.
I think it does. It does what it's trying to, or what it sets out to do, better than certainly the first Suicide Squad movie. Probably better than the second Suicide Squad movie too. Although that had the benefits of Margot Robbie still as Harley Quinn and all that stuff.
And then you have the caliber of actors like Idris Elba, John Cena.
Yeah.
John Cena in a groundbreaking Peacemaker debut. I would say, like, you're not going to get like a groundbreaking
I'll say
debut from that. But.
The second Suicide Squad movie, not for me, in large part because of the,
gore.
James Gunn gore and over violence and stuff like that. So I probably preferred Thunderbolts here, but I fully understand if people like Suicide Squad better.
I honestly, they're such different films.
Sure.
That it's hard to even play as. Yeah, I think that as far as the Thunderbolts go, they the people behind this film had a vision. They knew the material, and they knew what the material, what that vision should be. Which is, you should not, like, they did such a great job of treading and threading the needle through a lot of, like, I'm actually going to save this for spoilers. So just be like, I think they threaded the needle on what they were attempting to do very, very well.
Yeah.
And I do, like, honestly, everything for me worked, but everything wasn't like a 10 out of 10 film. I think I agree with you. I don't think that there is a Thunderbolts 10 out of 10 movie.
Yeah.
By design.
I think the other thing I'll say, and the reason I think this movie, stands out among the post-Endgame block in a way that some others don't, is it was a great ensemble piece, and it is like you get a lot of fun actors, if not fun characters, together, and they can riff and banter off one another in the way that you have a Guardians 3 or a Deadpool and Wolverine, or a Spider-Man No Way Home, and I think that team up nature of this helps. This certainly was an interesting cross-up, like mashup between like a Suicide Squad idea and a Guardians idea, and so I think all of those pieces coming together, and not like I would say 99% of this movie is a standalone thing, and they really don't like this. This is not a movie worried about setting the pieces for Secret Wars until like maybe the very, very end of the movie.
Yeah.
And so I think that's also where we've seen, the most success in a lot of these cases is like, it's not trying to trying to Avengers Age of Ultron it and be like, all right, here's the setups for these next few movies, because they've learned when they tried to do that in Quantumania, probably most notably recently, that's going to bite us, or that has it has a greater potential to bite us. I think another thing they've learned is when they do that, it sucks the air out of what this movie is supposed to actually be. Yeah.
These movies should not be connecting pieces that lead to an end game. You have to be smarter about that, and I think they've gotten smarter about it.
Yeah. So I think that's that team nature of it stands up above like where Captain America Brave New World most recently was, where it's like, okay, that was Captain America and his new Falcon, who we knew from the Falcon and Winter Soldier show, and that was about it. And it was like, okay, that's not the most compelling of team ups until like the final minutes of that movie, where I was like, oh, when they're actually talking and kind of jabbing at one another, like that was the most I enjoyed their dynamic, and we didn't get that throughout the whole rest of the movie. So I think here it is like everybody can kind of like beat up on each other early on in the movie, and I think that just helps them form this like camaraderie where they see themselves in each other.
Yeah.
And especially with the nature of Bob and his kind of role in the story, they also then can immediately empathize with what the other people might be going through. So I appreciated that very, very much. So yeah, I think it's an 8 for me. But again, I don't know if there was like a 10 out of 10 Thunderbolts movie that I ever could have expected from this, just for my own personal thoughts on what I expected going in. So, but yeah, very pleasantly surprised by how much fun I had with it. And some of the twists and turns that the nature of the story went. So with that, let's dive into full spoilers. And I think maybe the most spoilery things would be probably the like post-credit and end-credit stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that first. So last chance to duck away if you are so inclined before we dive into full spoiler stuff.
I would say this is also one worth going out and watching. So.
Yeah, it was definitely fun in theaters. It was fun seeing it. We saw it at like the big Cine Capri, which is not IMAX, but it's like one of the big screens in here in town. So yeah, a lot of fun there. So yeah, last chance to duck away for spoilers. Starting with the end credit stuff, I'll say basically going into the end credits, we get the like Thunderbolts asterisk the new Avengers.
Yeah.
So we finally get like the reveal of what that asterisk has been since, the beginning, that it is like they didn't want to call this the new Avengers movie, but that's basically where these characters are at the end of it.
And the entire, when you look back at the film, it's like, oh, in a way they did the entire plot of the first Avengers movie.
I was thinking about that last night. I was like they had so many what now gotta be direct parallels to this, to being the original Avengers movie, because they're talking about like, hey, here's all the Chitauri stuff, here's the Battle of New York, like all those like exhibits, the big A from the Avengers Tower being in that building, and then everything culminating in New York, them having that like street level. It's not like they don't do the full circle moment kind of thing, but it is like it was, oh yeah, they are fending off another, like, this is the second Battle of New York. Like, will probably be alluded to, or the Dark Battle of New York or something like that in the MCU, history books or whatever. And so, yeah, I found myself very much appreciating that, like, that dawning on me after the movie last night before I was going to bed. The way they kind of played with those parallels and analogs of, the team initially starting out, at odds with one another, and then ultimately kind of reluctantly coming together, and then finally coming together to, really serve a higher cause without needing to avenge anybody. This time around. But yeah, also obviously the Valentina stuff happening, her basically pouring drinks at the same bar Tony did.
Just full on like I didn't realize it until after. I was like, son of a bitch. Like, They got us. They hoodwinked everybody. Well, not everybody. Some people are like, I think it's meant to be like New Avengers. Yeah. And my response to that was, that's fucking stupid. Why would you do that?
Agreed. And I appreciate that even the movie knows that.
Yes.
Like, that is, the characters are commenting on that at the end of the movie, and in like our
Sam Wilson suing them because he's copyrighted the Avengers.
Yeah, the 14 months later. Okay, yes, because it is also this, like, this does take place after Captain America: Brave New World, because in that Bucky was running for Congress, and here he is a sitting congressman kind of thing. So yeah, the fact that it is all of these like rejects and misfits who have been doing whatever they've been doing for the past 14 months, teeing up. I mean, the post-credit scene, it, like, I appreciate it wasn't just the Fantastic Four tease, that it was like, okay, here's a little bit more of like what this team's established dynamic is, and they've been doing it for a year plus. They have been the new Avengers out there doing whatever they're doing.
And in this time, we find out that after the events of, Red Hulk, the events of Brave New World, we get that Sam has put together his own team of Avengers. We don't know who's in that team.
Yeah.
But has filed a lawsuit against them to basically get them to stop using the Avengers name. At some point, Bucky went to meet with Sam, and it did not go well, according to Bucky, which usually means somebody, like, people got into a fight and maybe
they
got
fought.
hurt. Yeah.
Somebody shot guns.
Yep. That's my expectation. I think that it gives us such a good tease of it, but also we get to see like them in some like sleek outfits.
Yeah.
Like that are like very cool. But
they're still not, like, they're not Stark tech. They're not, like, that's still, they don't have like the Tony Stark resources behind. They have the federal government resources behind them, which is, admittedly far too much, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then of course Red Guardian coming in with his like Avengers with a Z jumpsuit.
Yep.
Just still being like
full NASCAR, by the way. Like all the sponsors apparently that the new Avengers have.
Yeah.
That he's like, but we have it with and you see like the patch Z that he put on it. It's perfect. Him in the grocery store before then.
The mid-credit
scene being box. Like on the Wheaties box, like, oh hey, just David Harbour as Red Guardian. The fact that they did it initially in Black Widow, where they turned his goofiness to being much more of like, oh, this is our embarrassing dad. Mm-hmm. Cementing that, because earlier when Yelena goes to see him, he's like really goofy and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, we'll get a little bit of this, but maybe not all of it. when he shows up with the limo, honking at her, going, Yelena! And
Don't go in there. They're going to burn you alive.
Yeah, just like
it's like
her
that thing that happened last night.
Yeah, she's like hiding her face, like I can't, like the most embarrassed child reaction to it, and it's just like, okay, yeah, I'm whatever he does from this point onward in front of this team is just, oh yeah, you have this person. Well, who's that? Oh, that's Yelena's dad. I am Red Guardian. Like, it's just, it's so damn good.
Yeah.
Because all of that is played off of, oh, this is somebody's embarrassing dad.
Yeah.
And because of that, it works. I think otherwise, without that kind of tone to it, it's egregious and probably a detraction for the film. But because of the tone they set it in, it just works.
And I would say it does have the ultimate heart payoff of the nice little moment between Yelena and Alexei about like, when I look at you, I don't see your flaws. Kind of that little beat. It
shows, like, I think I go back to the beginning of the Black Widow movie when it's in the past, and you have that moment between Alexei and I forgot the mom's name.
I don't remember.
But basically Alexei and the mom, and they have a conversation without having a conversation of, is it better that we stay in the United States? And Alexei, wanting glory, convinces them not to and instead go back to Russia. And in doing so, breaks up the family and gets him thrown in prison as a political prisoner. His daughter's taken into the Red Room, and we don't know what happened. And then later finding out that mom was always part of the original Red Room.
Yeah, Melina.
There you go. Melina was part of the original Red Room and basically went into like retirement after that. And it was and then throughout that entire film of them putting this family back together after all these years. And it's so fascinating when he's talking to her sincerely, and it's like, he knows on a deep intrinsic level that he made a mistake by convincing the family to go back to Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never more clear that it is in these heartfelt moments when he's talking about the Thunderbolts and she says, oh, well, we were sponsored by this. And he goes, what? No, he couldn't have sponsored it. He didn't have the money. And it's clear, like, the other dads around just being like, what? No, that jabroni couldn't afford to sponsor the soccer team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just such a good throwback to that beginning of that film that is just so, like, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because Yelena had her entire life stolen from her. And she's already hashed it out with her dad, but now Alexei's seeing the trauma build up over the years and her being like, but I've done so much wrong. And he takes this moment to be her father and be like, you know why you wanted to be the goalie. Because when somebody made a mistake, you'd be there to help them. And it's this brilliant, brilliant moment that is just David Harbour and Florence Pugh just absolutely fucking deliver in this film when it comes to the father-daughter relationship.
Yeah.
They take what was fun and engaging about Black Widow and take it up a notch. And this is a broken family. They're not together. They haven't seen each other in a year. And why didn't he reach out? Because he's ashamed, because he can't put his life together.
Yeah.
Because he's still caught up in the glory days. And
the glory days that never really were.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciated, especially after we had the What If Winter Soldier and Red Guardian.
Yeah.
Getting to see that in live action now.
Yeah, there was. I thought there were a lot of fun. Like, it had to be direct parallels.
A lot of nods to it.
I mean, because in that they crash into a building in Vegas
Yep.
and go and pretty much, like, yeah. There's a lot of even some of the lines they have, I think, in the car together are the same.
What kind of super soldier serum did you get? The Hydra one. Ooh, fancy Hydra.
Yeah.
What'd you get? Not as good, but still good.
Yeah.
Russian variant.
Soviet variant. Yeah.
Soviet variant. Not as good, but still good.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah, there was a lot of great fun to those, and it's again going back to like the pre-spoiler stuff or the non-spoiler stuff. Like, a lot of the characters get moments to shine and stuff like that, and it just suffers because not all of them do.
Yep.
But yeah, I think the heart of it being that Yelena and Alexei relationship, and that being the tee up for we were on the soccer, you were on the soccer team, the Thunderbolts, and he, like, in that image that picture that they show, was like he was like one of the assistant coaches or something like that. So it had very win or lose vibes from the recent Pixar show that we watched too.
Big win or lose vibes for that as well. Yes.
And then I mean, even just the movie starting out with all of the, like, Yelena's out there doing wet work. She's delivering what we think is an internal monologue, but no, she's actually telling this to one of the guards she's tied up, and basically just using him as a little impromptu therapy session while somebody with facial recognition comes in.
Hey, you stop paying attention. Like, you stop listening to me. You aren't paying attention. The guy being like, sorry.
Yeah. Like all of that happening while we're getting this very fun, like, hallway fight with the shadows and stuff. That's where, like, again, the look of the movie works in its favor a lot. I think there's a lot of great, cool cinematic choices, cinematography choices, and all that stuff. They
do such a great job of color balancing this film between light and dark, very intentionally, very thematically.
Yeah.
But one of the things I loved about it, as she's doing that wet work and she goes from being non-lethal to killing people as she's getting further into the shadows into the hallway.
Yeah.
And I'm like, looking back at it, I'm like, this is so good. Like I said, the execution for what is an 8.8 to 8.5 out of 10 movie is done excellent here.
Yeah, I didn't think about that in terms of, like, the thematic resonance of that so much as because it was something I certainly noticed of, like, okay, yeah, a lot of these people she's just taking out non-lethally. We see a lot of, like, bodies moving and being like in the background kind of thing. But then, yeah, she just, like, picks off the last two at the end and just straight up shoots them. I did not catch that was a, like, as it got darker and darker kind of moment. So much as she's just getting more and more exhausted and frustrated and tired of them getting back up and, attacking her.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't go back and, like, finish off everybody in that hallway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will say, like, one thing that was, like, super, I thought, overblown in retrospect, in, like, the promotional tour was like, Yelena jumping off the building kind of thing, or Florence Pugh actually jumping off the building. Like, it's being touted as, like, this big thing and whatnot, because she jumps off the second tallest building in the world. And I was like, okay, it didn't really add anything to the movie for me. It was just like, okay, it's neat, but it also just looks like somebody jumping off a tall building. Like, when the movie itself is not making any reference or, notion that it's, like, the second tallest building in the world. It's just she's jumping off of one building so that she can land on the roof of another building. It's like, I feel like that can happen in many places in the world.
Sure.
So it's like, okay, cool. Interesting enough way to open, and I do appreciate that, like, it's done practically and all that stuff. But for the amount of, like, hype that had been, like, I mean, it's either the fact that they'd been hyping it up, and so because of that, we've seen that shot in all the trailers and everything.
I think that's part of it for sure.
So there's, like, a lot of, like, okay, well, I've already seen this before, so this isn't like there wasn't particularly anything added to it or anything new.
To my knowledge, I didn't think
she was just jumping off and going to fall. It was like, I expected that there was going to be a parachute opening at some point.
To my knowledge, she might be the second or third actor to ever do that, though.
Yeah. I mean, because
Tom Cruise was the first one to do
it. Tom Cruise did it with the tallest building. I believe she's in the Guinness records as, like, female to jump off the highest or something like that. And she has an incredible stunt team that worked with her and assisted her and all that stuff too. It was just like that being the big selling point of, like, okay, we're going to do this stunt and Florence is going to really, make sure she's the one actually doing it.
I feel like that's the same vein as, like, all the big promos they do for Tom Cruise. Like, Tom Cruise is actually flying the plane, or Tom Cruise is doing this, because I think that was the big kind of press thing about, there's going to be this big stunt.
Yeah.
Granted, I think the delivery of it in the film is it's not done as, like, a big stunt.
Yeah.
Which is fair.
Yeah, then maybe that's it. Maybe it's, well, this was the opening moment of the film versus, like, all those Tom Cruise examples. It's usually the climactic beat of the film that we're
Yes.
seeing and all that stuff. So
Or like it's the big stunt of a very stunt-filled film.
yeah.
Filled film.
Yeah.
There you go.
Anyway, but yeah,
Yeah.
really enjoyed kind of Yelena struggling with that darkness and depression, and as you kind of touched on earlier, like her aimlessness. I think being a nice kind of central theme of the film that all of these characters are going through, and we see that when they all interact with Bob, who dealing with his own darkness in a very real, literal sense in the void kind of portion of his psyche. I loved the moments where we see that manifest when he touches somebody else. We see like we first see it. She gets blown out of the room and kind of knocked out for a little bit, and it just for the beginning, it just feels like it's a flashback to a dark moment in her life. But then we see him in there with her, and find out that they're holding hands in kind of their unconscious stupor.
There's also a lot of like, hey, neither of these people are in a good place, so it probably isn't a good idea to like get a romance kickstarted here. But I felt there was some chemistry between Yelena and Bob.
I thought I appreciate that there was an empathy there.
Yes.
I didn't think there was any kind like it didn't read romantic to me so much as like Yelena seeing what she thinks is just a civilian in among a battle of assassins and mercenaries, and is just like, hey, okay, well, you shouldn't be collateral damage to this.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's how it starts. But then as more and more gets revealed about Bob, I think the through line of empathy is definitely the thing that is the biggest part of their relationship.
Yeah, it's very much her wanting to help him in a way that nobody helped her.
Yes.
I think, and kind of like taking onus on that.
And her being the one person who he's encountered who hasn't wanted anything out of him, except eventually for him to stop Hiroshima-ing people.
Yeah,
like making shadow outlines of them on the concrete. I think this might be a good transition to talk about the Bob of it all.
Yeah.
In the comic books, Bob, Sentry, and the Void are three different personalities that are caused by the genetic the genetic altering hijinks that lead to him becoming the Sentry. Sentry is essentially what if Superman's powers was based off of basically like material, like control of reality, basically, like controlling the constitution of like what's going on and like how things work. We see that in the fight that he has with the Thunderbolts, where he can like stop somebody from moving. He can kind of just be like, no, just kind of like nope it.
I mean, yeah, he
no sells. He basically no sells stuff as like in wrestling terms.
Yeah, he basically like, heats up a gun to the point that it's melting or whatever. We first see him kind of demonstrating that sort of ability with the water, that he kind of like boils in his glass before it shatters. Yeah, he can like he can stop bullets in the air. I would say like heavy telekinesis vibes to it.
Oh, for sure.
But I mean, the first thing we actually see of his is he gets shot a shit ton.
Oh yeah.
by Val's like death squad, and then gets back up and starts to float away. So yeah,
and then crashes hard.
Yeah, like a very obvious like Superman parallels analogs kind of thing there. Like anybody with visual, with a visual history identity of superheroes stuff is going to say, oh, he's kind of got Superman's powers. Cool.
Pretty much that's very much how it is. The Marvel explanation of the science of it is what I explained. But for all intents and purposes, this is what if Superman had Clark, like what if Clark Kent was like a real persona, Superman was a real persona, and then they had a dark persona, and all three of them are real.
Yeah, which also I think interesting because Moon Knight kind of lays the groundwork a little bit for that of like, okay, we get a little bit that Bob is going through that dissociative personality stuff, same kind of stuff that Moon Knight was going through.
And it's interesting because when we see him in the Sentry costume, he is Sentry at that point, because later on when he goes back to being Bob,
yeah,
doesn't have any recollection of it.
Doesn't have any recollection of it. His hair's back to brown.
Brown, yep. This is super Bob, like, comic book accurate. And the Void, of course, like, visually, not just impressive, but just impactful.
Mm-hmm.
The blurring of a person's outline visually, so you can still see the detail of, like, his face, but the outline is so mushed together with the shadows of everything that it only looks like a facsimile of somebody's face.
Basically, we're looking at his silhouette, but we still see, like, the whites of his eyes.
Or the gold of his eyes in this case.
Yeah.
The gold of his eyes, and just, like, his cape, like, billowing a little bit still. Like, it's done so damn good. And when he later, I think I mentioned it to you also, when Bob in the Bob world is
in the Void realm.
In the Void realm is punching the Void, you see the Void start to laugh, and you see the smile, and it's so damn creepy because normally you'd be like, oh, it's going to be like smiling and it's all black teeth or something like that, and it's not. It's just the faint outline of teeth.
I was like, in an all black body, you're not going to see all black teeth kind of thing. So
sure.
Yeah, it needed to be the whites of his teeth to pop.
Just a little bit of it though. It's just the faintest glimpses of, like, light coming off of what otherwise is pitch black.
Mm-hmm.
And it does that so well that then when you see the powers kind of extend and start shadowing people, it does, like, it's like, okay, like, it's believable in this moment. It's like, okay, we're caught up in it.
I like the introduction in the real world to Void as the character, because it is like, okay, we've seen him as this Sentry character. We've seen him fight off the Thunderbolts, and they all get their asses kicked, and they basically, like, leave and flee down an elevator. But when we see kind of the Void for the first time, it's him floating above the city, and it's a fun trick of the, like, oh, we're just seeing him in silhouette because the light's behind him or something like that. And then we get closer to him. It's like, oh no, he's just an all black Void of a character now. And that is, like, the look of this character. It's not
so good.
It's not that, like, visual, oh, I'm only seeing you in silhouette kind of thing. It's, you are nothing but silhouette. And then
so good.
Again, his the manifestation or the display of his power being kind of the shadow effect of the Hiroshima, Nagasaki, bodies on the wall kind of thing, being a very visually striking image, and we see him use it kind of against some of Val's security forces first.
Yep.
But then we do see it kind of amongst the scattering of the public, but also and the helicopters, which ends up leading to the crane crashing down, and so we have our heroes having their come together moment. Let's save the civilians. Let's save the people in that fun little. I don't remember it necessarily happening a ton in the first Avengers movie. The one I always think of is Avengers: Age of Ultron. One of the highlights of that very much being, okay, we're taking the feedback that everybody had of Man of Steel of, like, look at all the people that died from Superman's fight. We're going to be the ones that are saving people, and so, like, Avengers: Age of Ultron has the movie goes out of its way to show the Avengers saving civilians and helping them get off the flying city or whatever. So I appreciated this had that kind of moment of, okay, everybody goes in, uses their super abilities to save somebody, to do what they can, and we get that great moment of Red Guardian, like, jumping in, protecting the kid from the big old piece of cement flying down, saves the kid, is overjoyed because this is all he's ever wanted, and then the kid poofs out of existence. Yep. And it's like, oh, that got dark real quick.
Yep. I think it was audible.
It was at that point in the movie, I'm like, okay, like, that combined with the fact that I'd seen the shot of Yelena walking into the shadow cloud in the trailers, I was like, they're gonna make it so this isn't death, because there's no way they would, like, there's no way Marvel would sign off on dramatically killing the kid like that if the kid wasn't going to come back. So
100%,
like, at that point, like the you know, the studio minded or the business minded person in me kind of lowers the stakes a bit. But you know, finding out then that the stakes are, okay, yeah, she's not dead, but she's reliving the worst moment of that little girl's life.
I thought to myself, I was like, what is the worst moment
yeah.
of this little girl's life? Because I'm like, I know it's going to be traumatic for her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, was it like a scary dog? Was it like, it's got to be something like that. And I hope it's something like that, and not something like, you know, truly awful. But like in my mind, I was like,
turns out she's like Ellie from The Last of Us, and she just shot a guy in the head or something.
well, one of the things I loved, it's like, oh, are we going to see all the other Thunderbolts when they go in, all their things? And it's just like, nope.
Yeah.
They're like, but they're like, Bucky, was yours bad? He goes, oh no, mine was fine. I've lived a great life.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I appreciate that. We didn't necessarily need it.
We didn't need it.
It like, we got the vibe from Black Widow, from Florence Pugh Yelena's kind of perspective of, okay, she gets thrown back into that memory of like her sacrificing one of her friends, but she breaks out of that into another room of like setting up all the guns, and then she's the first one done, and so that means everybody else gets punished, and then
which ties also into her thing of like, oh, I want to be the goalie because if somebody makes a mistake, I can help them. Mm-hmm. Now being flipped to, oh yeah, it's super traumatic because she has that idea in her heart, and it's being brutalized by the Red Room's training.
Yeah,
it continues to be brutalized by the Red Room's training. Like,
yeah,
it's heartbreaking in that moment.
And then
when she covers her ears and her face, because it's like, God, Florence Pugh's so damn good in this movie.
And then we get the shot of her in the bathroom in what I kind of wrote off as like the moment right before she's calling Val and being like, I want to do better, I want a public face, because she's got kind of her hair like wetted back in that same kind of style. So it's a very recent, like, she is in her
it's the same
darkest
outfit she was when she visited Red Guardian. It's that same outfit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's basically like in her darkest recent moment of like drunk and passed out and stuff like that. So like we got from that it's not just your worst moment, it's all of the bad moments of your life are in here until you can make your way and you know, because they had this connection with Bob, find your way to Bob kind of thing.
Yeah, but she found her way to Bob, and it turns out the hint we got when Valentina DeFonte, when she gets into that, because before from DeFonte we heard her say, I know about your mother's mental illness, I know about what and the moment she mentions his father, he stops her.
Yeah.
And does the thing where he makes her see the worst moment of her life, which was how she accidentally got her father shot and killed.
Yeah.
In front of her. And it's at that moment, it's like her whole thing about her then later speech about
real quick, that doesn't come from him stopping her in that moment. That's her reaching out. Like, she grabs him to try and be like, hey, we can do this. And that's just like she accidentally stumbled into his power.
Okay. I misremembered that. My bad.
He stops it, and it's much more of a violent kind of like the room shakes a little bit.
Yeah.
When he says, you shouldn't know that. I didn't authorize you to know that kind of thing. Yeah.
You're right on that. Thank you for correcting me on that. But yeah, no, when that happens and we see that, and then later when she mentions to her assistant, she goes, listen, your entire life you grew up, you think there's good guys and bad guys. But you need to realize that there's bad guys and worse guys. And I'm like, that goes back to the trauma of her childhood as well.
Yep.
Of that. Also, probably the fact that she's the national security director of the CIA. Or just the director of the CIA, sorry. Also, ex-wife of now wanted fugitive.
Yeah, that didn't come up at all. The fact that Martin Freeman's her wife or her husband.
Well, they're divorced at that point.
Sure.
But yeah.
Which real quick, just detour into one of the things I thought just goes nowhere in the film is like the Senate trial stuff.
No, the Senate trial doesn't go anywhere.
As much of a fan as I am of Wendell Pierce,
I love Wendell Pierce so much.
I was like, oh, he's here. He's this this fun congressman character who's like, we get that moment of him calling the press conference and bringing the impeachment session back, and that's the last time we see him.
Yeah,
like, that never gets paid off.
That thread drops like a hammer.
Yeah,
because from then on, they're the new Avengers, so they're not turning evidence against her.
Yeah.
She's successfully saves her job and doesn't get thrown in federal prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. I wish they'd done something with that.
And that, like, ultimately that was her plan all along. If it had just been Sentry, that was going to be like, hey, like, nobody's going to care what I did because I got results.
Yep.
And that's what happens still with the new Avengers. So, like, fine. But yeah, it was just the fact that, like, that just went nowhere. And I did appreciate him being like, come on, Bucky, like, you got to just read the packets, man. We can't do this kind of thing. Like, we're not, we don't work in the shadows or whatever. It's like,
he calls him out.
Okay, yeah, plenty of shit happens behind closed doors in Congress.
But he's like, you got to read the packet. Like, you're a junior later it's mentioned, you're a junior congressman who hasn't gotten a single bill passed. You are ineffective as a congressman.
Yeah.
And I love that moment where he's like, you got to read the packet, Bucky. Come on. He goes, this is how we do things, the right way, procedure.
Yeah.
This is the job. Oh, yeah, the job that goes out on recess every day at 4 p.m.
Yeah, on recess, yeah.
And it's and just being like, this is the job, man. And this is also, and it's funny because this is also Bucky's moment here is he's worked in the trenches on the ground for such a long time that it makes sense that he got pulled into this is going to be a leadership position for you. You're going to be a congressman. Like, you're from Brooklyn. Your constituents love you. You're a hero. And then we see what happens to a lot of constituents who love him and heroes in Congress, and they're aimless, and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to give a press conference of, how do you feel about, well, these things are concerning and worrisome, and, worrisome and concerning. And it's like...
That said, I'm perfectly fine to see less polished Congress people if they actually care about what they're doing instead of just being...
On a personal level?
Fucking,
yes,
100%. The real Congress? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But the problem is that this movie feeds into the propaganda that you have to be, like, polished and up, you basically have to be, like, a lawyer or a whatever most of our government politicians actually are. Anyway, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. I wasn't going to. But normally I'm the person who brings
cutting
that
myself off from doing that. But yeah, it was just a disappointing bit of, like, because it's also that we have that moment of, like, they're very combative in front of the cameras in Congress, but then they're also buddy enough to take photo opportunities there at the gala thing. And I'm like, okay, if you really believe that she's the worst person, you would not stand there and pose for that photo, man. Like, so you've also lost all credibility in my eyes in this moment. So yeah, like, be there to, like, threaten her and kind of taunt her that, like, I'm going to get your job, but don't be like, oh yeah, let's smile for the cameras and keep this civil, because that's not the fucking world we actually live in. But anyway, back on the Bob of it all. Like, I really enjoyed another fight that I thought was very fun. We talked about a little bit the Bob fight or the Sentry fight, but here the Bob fight, where it is like, okay, yeah, Bob's mind is throwing all these things at Yelena and Bob, and then we see the other members start to pop in.
Yep. I also want to say this is a moment where you find out that Bob has, like, a heroic heart. Like, he tries to stand up for his mom, only for his mom to turn on him. Mm-hmm. That was just that broke my heart when he stands up and he says, oh, what you're going to do about it? And then the mom goes, stop it. You're making it worse. You always make it worse. And just like, oof. Yeah. That's heartbreaking. And then, of course, this kid from, like, a broken home pursues drugs, including meth, when he is a spitting sign chicken.
Real quick. Yeah. The before we get out of that attic scene, I like everybody starts to show up and Red Guardian, like, tears a pillow apart and yells at the pillow or whatever. But yeah, they're like, okay, well, you said this is, like, the best room in the house. Take us to the worst ones.
The fact that that's the best room in the house of his memories, it's like, that's really fucked up.
Yeah. Well, it's one where he's not physically under duress. He's hearing the pain of his parents kind of thing.
The pain of his childhood. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, he's just hiding in an attic. So yeah, but then we get into the other sequences of his darkness, including the payoff to the line mentioned earlier in the film of him being a meth addicted sign spinner in Malaysia as a chicken
in a chicken suit. Yeah.
Love that little beat. And Alexi,
Bobby, if you hit me one more time,
bam! I was high on meth.
It was the meth.
Yeah. And then we
shout out to Bob also being like a man in recovery.
Yeah. I did appreciate also the full circle of like the last room we end up in, Yelena being like, I've been here before, because it is that room that she broke into and where she was cleaning up things from the beginning. And it was kind of when the lab assistant came in or whatever, the lab tech came in and was like, no, Val needs to know what happened here. Like, knowing that Bob and Void is coming in the movie, I was like,
we see the silhouettes.
This is where
of the two scientists.
I didn't remember seeing the silhouettes.
I remember seeing it. Yeah,
in the beginning of the movie,
they're just hanging out in the background. And if you aren't like, I caught those, I was like, oh, this must be the Sentry from like the previews and everything. I'm getting that from it. And then when later it gets paid off here, it's like, here we go.
Yeah. So yeah, we kind of get the climactic beat there, and everybody frees themselves from whatever Void had kind of trapped them with. In another fun, like actiony, like, oh, Yelena jumping over and dodging under and all that stuff. And then it was like as much crap as a lot of people gave a few years ago when Life of Strange True Colors got announced, and everybody was like, wait, so her superpower is empathy? Like, that fucking is a goddamn superpower in this day and age.
Yep.
We learned that from a goddamn pandemic where half of the country was like, no, I'm not going to look out for other people. I'm only going to look out for myself and blah, blah, blah. And so I love that kind of going back to what I talked about in the spoiler-free stuff. I like that the third act here is like them coming together and hugging him and being like, we're here for you. We're here with you. Like, you're not alone. Like, we're here. We can help you. You're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. And being that like positive reinforcement that helps him kind of like get out of his own darkness. I appreciated. And yeah, it's like, I don't imagine that would be a fun experience for them to do every time he has one of those episodes. So the fact that they kind of seemingly indicate that, you know, he hasn't really been Sentry for the 14 months of New Avengers stuff.
Oh, I love that. I love that they're just like, oh, maybe, hey, Bob.
Maybe if we had Sentry, we could fly. Okay. It's like, so what was your plan, man? We just jump on Sentry's back and fly?
Yeah, I love that. You Red Guardian. Don't think I don't see you over there, Bob, pretending to read a book.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, he looks over. He
I don't
goes,
know if it was it Red Guardian said there, or was it John Walker?
Oh, I thought it was Red Guardian.
Might have been. I don't know.
But yeah, then Bob looks over and he goes, yeah, but if you want the Sentry, then you
have to get the other guy.
You have to get the other guy.
But hey, I did the dishes.
Yep. Love that. Love that. I'm doing my part. Because one of the best moments of the entire film is when she goes, I give you the new Avengers, and everybody starts clapping, and Bob goes, oh my, you guys are the new, like steps off to the side and starts clapping as well. And it's just, c'est magnifique. It's just, it's so good. Bob is this, like, such a gem of a character. And I know Stephen Ewan could have done a great job with it. But the fact that even with that recasting, we still got somebody who really connects with this character and was really, really able to bring it to life, was just fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Like, Bob is one of these like very special characters. I feel the Sentry has often been used as a plot device rather than a singular character. The last time I remember reading anything about Sentry, he was fighting Carnage, like the Carnage symbiote out in the universe. So I don't know what's going on with Sentry in the comic books these days, but love the character, love its origin. So. Yeah,
I mean, definitely, and the directors have come out and talked about this. Like, it was a deliberate choice that, like, Sentry and the Void and Bob are absolutely a, like, you know, allegory for mental health.
Oh, 100%.
And like, so we're going to examine the mental health of all of these characters.
The whole pitch of Superman, if he had bipolar disorder and dissociative identity disorder, is a because he's like, I have these great days and then I have really bad days. And it's like, yeah, but your bad days are when you void people out of existence. So let's minimize your bad days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Trying to think, do we have anything else to call out? We'll talk about kind of the opening sequence of or not the opening sequence, but basically the first
the
act
vault scene
in the vault stuff. Yeah.
Where we
with
get
everybody fighting,
where
each other.
Taskmaster gets murdered.
Yeah, Taskmaster immediately offed, as I very much had suspected. It was like Taskmaster, throughout all of the marketing stuff, it was, okay, yeah, if this is your Suicide Squad, Taskmaster is clearly your Slipknot, where like you're throwing them in like one thing. And it was very notable, especially when they did the director chairs thing of the Doomsday reveal, that character being the one of Thunderbolts that did not survive or did not make it to get a chair. Is like, okay, yeah. And we've only really seen Taskmaster in like one shot in the trailers or whatever. So it's like, okay, I did not expect it to be like so brutally, violently like a non-character. Like the fact that I joked, the fact that Olga Kurylenko, I believe,
she has third top billing,
and I don't know if it was fully third, but like it's very early in the billing of the end credits. Like the fact that she's billed so highly after really only coming out and like her face coming out and saying like "stay out of my way," Yelena or something like, and then the mask goes back on. It was like, okay, yeah, you are such a non-entity here. She gets a couple cool like fun moments with the fight, especially doing Shield versus Shield with U.S. Agent. But yeah, just to immediately just be like, Ghost comes in and pops her in the head, and she ends up being more of a character after she's dead, with Yelena continuing to reinforce like she was a person, she had a hard life kind of thing. Yeah, it was like a okay, and it's also doing the mental gymnastics of okay, based on everybody else whose target was whose. Okay, so U.S. Agent was her target, and so that's why nobody's like going after U.S. Agent after she gets taken out, and so yeah, I appreciate that, but it was very much like it had been telegraphed from a lot of the earlier like marketing stuff that Taskmaster was not long for this movie's world.
She's also in the very bottom of the poster. I realized I was like, barely in the poster at all, and I'm like, they're making some strong choices here.
Yeah.
So
it was we're gonna throw all of the names of all of the the superheroes into this to be like, hey, look, the superhero's in here, the superhero's in here, but it was the exact same Slipknot vibes of like, all right. They're one of these is being set up to show that there are stakes, that not everybody's going to make this out alive.
Yeah.
But they had also undercut those stakes by then telling us that all of these other people are going to be in Doomsday. So it's like, okay, weird call to do that. But I do appreciate now having the context of these as the new Avengers. Makes sense why they're going to be in Doomsday. And it's almost as if they're going to be sacrificial lambs in Doomsday, or there are going to be some sacrificial lambs in Doomsday that will probably not make it out of Doomsday alive before we get into Secret Wars, would be my guess, in another Infinity War Endgame saga kind of parallel. But yeah, other than that, I liked that opening sequence was like Valentina teeing up and basically just trying to clean up all of these other loose ends.
Yes.
And then they all have that moment. Unfortunately, not early enough for Taskmaster, but they all have this moment of like, wait, like she's gonna kill all of us, or if one of us ends up living, she's not going to let that loose end lie either.
I love how Walker's just like so like in denial.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not that he's oblivious. He's just so in denial that he's not the one that is here to do this and is going to make it out. Oh, maybe that sound is the team here to extract me.
Yeah.
No, you can't feel it just getting hotter and hotter in here, and just be like, okay, yeah, it's an incinerator. Okay.
Yeah.
Like.
Also, it led to a lot of great humor in terms of them like having to climb up the elevator shaft.
When he tries to leap his way out of it and then falls back down on his ass.
Yeah.
So good.
Yep. And helping reinforce for people that didn't watch, the Falcon Winter Soldier. Okay, this is what his abilities kind of are. He is like, budget Steve Rogers. But has some heft to him, kind of thing.
And he is like a decorated combat veteran. Like,
yeah,
he has a whole he is not
I love that banter too. Of like, oh, okay, we get it. You're in the military. Like,
it's there are gonna be 5 clicks out that way. Oh, we get it. You're in the military.
Yeah, or varsity state champ back to back to back.
Dude, when he said that, oh my gosh, football championship,
and
back
that
to back
being
to back.
the thing that tees up Yelena to be like, all right, well, here's the story of when I was this Thunderbolt, young
Pee-wee soccer.
Anybody else want to share any pointless stories from their childhood?
So good.
But I love that ends up being why this group continues to be the Thunderbolts. Because as we touched on a little bit in the spoiler-free stuff, I have always thought Thunderbolts was an allusion to Thunderbolt Ross. And so when Thunderbolt Ross in the previous movie is basically like outed as the Red Hulk and is persona non grata, I thought that was going to be like why they can't really call themselves the Thunderbolts anymore or something like that. I thought that was what we were going to be heading towards. So the fact that it's like, no, the Thunderbolts was completely unrelated to that, and it's tied to this silly childhood story from Yelena's past, and everybody just kind of glommed onto it as a joke more than anything. I appreciated very much. So, lots of fun in that like opening little incinerator fight and sequence. Basically, the first act of the film, them escaping them,
and Bob showing up because we see Elena gets thrown into his carrier case,
a little cryopod or whatever.
Yeah, and he gets out of there like, how did you like? And that stops the fight because they're all like, "Who are you?
Who is this guy?
Who's this guy? Oh, hi, I'm Bob."
Yeah,
and it's just. The beat of that.
That's a disarming beat, yeah.
Yeah, it's a disarming beat. It's a mic drop moment of everybody just being going to be like,
"Hi, Bob, what are you doing here?"
Yeah. And then Walker just calling him Bobby.
Yeah.
Just dismissively the entire film.
Yeah.
It's just like, up until the very end where he starts calling him Bob.
Yeah.
It's and then and like Valentina calls him Robert because he's being motherly. Robert.
Yeah. I see who you truly are, Robert.
Yeah.
I see your potential. Yeah. The
and that activates
master manipulator.
Yeah, and that activates the Sentry persona, which is these delusions of grandeur that he has. And then episodes of like absolutely feeling worthless.
I love the like
good.
How quickly he turns and is like, why would a god take orders from you? I think we're throwing the word god around pretty loosely.
You said
I'm stronger than all of the Avengers combined, which includes at least one god. So yeah,
it's just like got him.
I think I have my logic wrapped up tight. And it's like he's got you there, Valentina.
That's a hashtag got him moment right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the kill switch obviously not working.
It works.
I mean,
but what we don't know is that the kill switch activates the void.
Yeah, I mean, so like kill switch in that it doesn't end Bob/Sentry/ the Void's life. It incapacitates part of him. Mel was an interesting character, Val's assistant, who like the whole time I'm kind of like, I don't know which side you're on, because she's making these calls to Bucky, seemingly tipping off that like she's not comfortable with this, but ultimately she does seem to side with Val and all that. Yeah, it was a weird dynamic for that character.
I think it works though because this is a character who is out for herself. Essentially. Yeah,
maybe. I mean, but it was also like it felt like it was another thread that I felt like kind of gets dropped.
I felt it was Valentina's going off the reservation at this point. Mm-hmm. Somebody has to step in. That's her contacting Bucky.
Yeah,
for me, it's these massive moral, like the big morally gray lines getting pushed into dark. Mm-hmm. That's when she pushes back and tries to do something. But at the very end, she does rescue Val and gives her, and like says, "I want to race."
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, not a I quit. It's a I want to race. So she's buying into Val at this point anyway.
Yeah.
So it is like kind of her character's arc of like, is she like. She does have like a moral backbone, but she chooses money and power over anything else.
Yeah.
So,
also we had the fun car sequence out in the desert, which we'd seen a lot of in the trailers.
But in the movie, it hits so damn good in the movie. Like it's great.
It's I mean, I don't know if maybe I just saw like an extended like sequence of it, so it didn't look particularly new to me.
Oh, fair.
So yeah, it didn't, like you mentioned that last night, and I was like, okay, like there wasn't anything particularly surprising about it, because I think I'd even seen like the pony joke of it, of like him flipping buttons and
I hadn't seen that.
on it, like, who are you driving? Or the, like, because I had definitely seen the, like, it's bulletproof. You said it was bulletproof-ish.
Whatever that trailer was, I never saw it. So.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the one thing I hadn't seen was maybe like one of the trucks in the convoy being blown up by Bucky. So I'd seen like the other one being blown up by him, and I'd seen him like riding up alongside one and doing the full like Terminator shotgun thing. And obviously he hits the Marvel and superhero movies in general, I guess, like action movies in general, let's say, they really love finding new ways to flip a car ass over tea kettle.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So the one here where we get he shoots the hitch off the front of it, then like lets the truck continue to drive forward as he slams on the brakes and does like the front wheelie kind of thing, then grabs it, uses his vibranium arm and just punches it in the ground, and we see the thing go flying. Yeah,
I also appreciated that Bob wasn't able to destroy it like he was trying to. It looked like he was trying to, but he heated it up enough that it overloaded and popped out of its socket.
What are you talking about?
When Sentry stops
the vibranium.
Yeah, the vibranium arm. He holds it and it looks like he's going to melt it like the gun earlier, but it doesn't melt, but it does whatever overload it, and it pops off of him.
Yeah, I mean, that struck me as he in that moment he's fighting to incapacitate. He's not trying to kill these people.
That too, but I would imagine he would have like melted through that arm, like if he was capable of it. But,
yeah, maybe.
That's just my take on it. Is vibranium still super powerful and strong?
Sure.
We're what's the vibranium still going over, right?
Sure.
To take a wrestling term.
Yeah. Well, there was
the vibranium wings. All that vibranium still going over. We got adamantium now in the world, but guess what? Vibranium's still going over.
So that's what I was going to touch on. They, I had this moment after, actually probably recently, where they have that moment of Harrison Ford talking about adamantium being more indestructible than vibranium. It's like, you can't be more indestructible than indestructible. It's just another form of indestructible. Like it's just also indestructible, my guy. So yeah, I had that moment of like, that's a weird line to write. That like, if
it's more indestructible, how are you mining it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's that aspect of it all too.
Like that makes no goddamn sense. How are you supposed to mine it if it's indestructible?
Yeah. So yeah, lots of just silly nonsense comic stuff there. But yeah, that was just another fun sequence in the film of action, and I love the excitement that they have of Bucky saving the day from them, only to immediately also be flipped by Bucky when he hits them with the detonation too, and then the way he we didn't get to see it in a ton of detail, but I liked that Bucky had basically like tied up all four of them in like very distinct way. Like he had the specific cuffs on Ghost so she couldn't phase, but then like everybody like Guardian and US Agent being super strong, so he like had extra strong like rebar wrapped around them, whereas
and Yelena was just tied up with a rope.
Kind of tied up with rope.
Yeah. I'm like, that's perfect. This is absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
And I love how he's just like, Bob, the Sentry Project, sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's called.
And then immediately,
I need to tell you about Bob. Tell me about Bob and the Sentry Project. And the Sentry Project looks back at them. Okay.
All right, I guess we're doing this.
Yep. Yeah. All right. It's just it's such a good beat of him like, that's ridiculous and incredulous that you'd even try to propose this to me.
Yeah.
Over to, oh shit. Well, all right, here we go again.
Yeah. And then last little thing I'm going to call out here. I don't know if you have anything else, but again, going back to the like, not everybody gets the same screen time in here. Obviously, this is very much Yelena. This is basically a Black Widow 2.
For all intents and purposes, yes.
Yeah, if I had to put this in anything, in the same way that like Captain America: Brave New World is much more Incredible Hulk 2 than Captain America 4.
Yeah.
I think this is much more like Black Widow 2 with the Thunderbolts. As we get, the heart of this very much being Yelena and Red Guardian, with Bucky kind of getting a little bit of, supporting role stuff in there, but then everybody else kind of given nothing. U.S. Agent, we do get the moment of him grabbing Bob and seeing like that he is so caught up in his failure and seeing like write-ups about the dime store Captain America or whatever, like the fall of John Walker, basically.
Yeah, it's a total like New York Times piece that just eviscerates him.
That he's not even paying attention to his kid when he's supposed to be paying attention to his kid. Now, I imagine they didn't go deeper, darker into that of like, oh, and the kid, endangered themselves in that moment.
Sure,
because it's still a Marvel movie. They're not going to go that dark with it. But that also makes me like that being the dark moment that we see of his is like, yeah, that's a bad moment of like that's a bad moment showing he's a bad dad. But I imagine the real darker moment there would be the wife leaving with the kid.
For me, this is the moment where that happened. For me, my take on this moment was this was the last thing that he could have ever done to save his marriage, and he walked out. I don't see that. I don't think they, if that's what they're going for, I don't think they do a good job of conveying that. It strikes me as it's a fight between them, and he gets indignant and leaves. And yeah, maybe it is a moment that he has gone back and relives in his head of like, I fucked up in that moment. I think,
I still think given the fact that Bucky calls out later on, hey, I know things have been bad since Olivia left with your kid. Like that's the moment that we should have seen in the in the flashback, but we don't because they want to still play up this idea that he is a family man that he's espousing himself as. So it struck me as it's not realistic to the moment, but it's realistic to the storytelling that they're trying to tell.
For me, I look at it more as Walker's all about doing things and being the person that does things. And I think the day that his wife leaves with the kid is not the worst day. The worst day is the last time he could have like fixed it. A lot of times I don't look at like the bad things that have like the bad things that I've encountered, the things that led up to those bad things that I could have prevented. That haunts me more than the actual bad thing happening. Because it's just like the obsessive compulsive disorder where like I pick apart everything that's ever happened to me in my life. And like I've isolated down points where it's like, if I had done this differently, this would have been different. And this wouldn't have happened that way. And when you kind of get caught up in that, I think that's why I took that away from that. Like, oh, for somebody who espouses, the idea of like pulling yourself up by your bootstrap, the idea of like, I can do things, the moment you choose to walk out. And that's for me, that was like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, she left. In my head, I immediately went, when he walked out, she took that as we're done. You aren't talking to me. You are lost in your phone, not paying attention to our son. You are so self-absorbed in this failure, and we cannot be victims of it. And for me, that is what I took away from that scene of like being like, that is the worst thing, because he could have said, you know what, you're right. I messed up. I'm struggling with this. I need to be better. He could have done a moment of you are right. I am in the wrong, but that's not who John Walker is.
Yeah.
John Walker is, I'm right. And the thing that they mentioned in this movie, as well as they mentioned in Falcon and Winter Soldier, is the super serums don't, like, the thing they impact most isn't your physical changes, it's your mental changes. Steve was always dedicated to putting other people in front of him to the point that was detrimental to his own physical health. And so getting that super body allowed him to then do that. Mm-hmm. But a lot of his struggle as Captain America was, when does he stop being Captain America? When does he stop being the hero? And when these call to actions keep coming, and when does he make the choice of doing what's right for the world versus doing what's right for another person? not, I don't want to get too far into that thought because that'll drag me for another hour here. But to back it up a little bit here is we saw with John
was a, all-American boy egomaniac. He fits the mold of a Captain America post serum. And so like that's the wrong person to give the serum to.
Exactly. And so his aggression, his anger, his frustration, and so when things didn't go his way in Falcon Winter Soldier, he brutally murdered a person in broad daylight, surrounded by people, with the shield.
Yeah.
Like the ultimate taboo, gets him fired as Captain America. And then it just spirals up from there. And then we know that
I did appreciate he had that line of like, well, your definition, like I think we might have different definitions of innocent or whatever. Yeah.
Totally, 100%. Yeah, it really is one of those moments of he can't see himself doing wrong because now he's the best possible version of himself. So there's no way I could ever be wrong. So in that moment, for me, when he's in that moment and he chooses not humility and humbleness and an acceptance that, yes, I am wrong in this moment, I should be paying attention to my son, not whatever hit piece this is about the fall of John Walker. Whatever that is, he doesn't. He makes that choice. And for me, that is like, okay, she left him after that. And so that's that was his last chance at keeping his family together.
So all that said, the thing that I think, or one of the things I think this movie is lacking is like, because we also got to see the moment of Val recruiting John Walker in Falcon Winter Soldier. We got to see, and she did the same thing she kind of does with Robert and Sentry here of like kind of, gassing him up and highlighting the positives and like we're gonna hide the negatives kind of thing. So the fact that we never got that scene or a here's my darkest moment scene for Ghost is, I think,
super weak. Yeah.
Both of those make that character suffer.
Absolutely.
In this film and just kind of become like an also ran kind of thing. And we also never really got to see the moment of Val recruiting Yelena. We saw in the end of Black Widow, the post-credit season for Black Widow, Yelena at Natasha's grave, and Val comes up and they talk about the next job or whatever. So they've already been working together.
Yeah.
But yeah, we never get like a flashback to the start of that relationship and what kind of brought Yelena into the fold. And so I think the fact that like we don't have a full clear picture of people's kind of like connections to Val, and we also don't have the full suite of everybody's dark moments and stuff like that. Even Bucky's, I'd be very curious to see like from a conceptual perspective what gets triggered for him in that. Like it makes for a funny line of, okay, they're all back together. How's everybody doing? Everybody holding up? Oh yeah, no, I've had a great life. So this is great. We know that the Winter Soldier's been through darkness and tough times. We know that all these characters have been, but I think especially for Ghost, if they need to flesh out one member of the team, it was Ghost.
It was Ghost, 100%.
Ghost very much gets kind of
the shaft.
She's just a visually interesting power to get thrown into the mix. And helps them get out of, like we get that moment of like she clearly left and then the car shows up with nobody driving it. So we the audience know that that's Ghost there. As I joked afterwards, it's like very weird that Ghost knows that those three soldiers are the three people she's looking for. So yeah, I think it's sad that Ghost still doesn't really, because it's also like. In a movie as stuffed with characters as Doomsday, I don't think we're ever going to really get a good glimpse at like who Ghost was apart from the bits of Ant-Man and the Wasp that we had. And that was, that being 7 or 8 years ago or however long it's been now. It's like, all right, yeah, that character has had maybe 20 minutes of screen time in the MCU. That feels a little weak for one of your new Avengers. But definitely left me interested to see where this all starts to tie to. It also seems to tee up, I think, the suspicions that I'll be curious to see if it pays out. If it does, it will be extra interesting that they showed this off. Well, two things. One, I joked with you. I was like, love it when the music credits, like rolling through the credits, tease what the post-credit scene is going to be, because I saw Fantastic Four, The First Steps, Michael Giacchino in there. And so I'm like, oh, okay, the post-credits tease is going to have a Fantastic Four reference. And sure enough, it does. But then the other thing, I'll be curious to see if, like, because the suspicion is very much that Fantastic Four is fleeing their world. And so their world is doomed, and Galactus is going to win, and basically they're leaving. And so it seems like this is almost the end of the first steps that they've just shown us.
I don't know, because I think it might be interesting to... It might not be the Fantastic Four are fleeing. Maybe it's just Sue Storm. It could be not they're fleeing their world. They're trying to get help from other worlds. That's a possibility that I thought about it as well. Or it could be in the middle of the fighting when they're trying to save their world. It somehow blasts them into another world. We don't know.
Maybe. A
lot up in the air, man.
A lot of the Fantastic Four trailers, and just knowing that we're in the lead up to a Secret Wars and multiversal kind of crossover. The fact that Galactus is in there, and this is that they are notably in a different alternate universe. And this one even gets introduced, extra dimensional ship is, coming into orbit or whatever. It strikes me as things go bad in First Steps. And yeah, maybe they're fleeing for help, but we've also seen shots of their world on fire. So I think they're fleeing for help, but it's also probably a lost cause, and Galactus wins in First Steps. And so it's weird.
Or maybe in their attempt to take out Galactus,
effectively telegraphing that here of
I don't know.
They've left, and they're the only thing that survives their world. Potentially.
I could also see it being as in a final push to kill Galactus with this ship or whatever. They've succeeded in saving their world, but now they're thrown out into the multiverse. There's a lot of possibilities. We'll have to see the movie in July to know how it actually ends. So. I'm excited, though. I'm very excited for Fantastic Four, just because that cast is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I can't wait. And the fact that we get a Doctor Doom unrelated to the Fantastic Four, apparently, I'm curious to see what happens with that and Robert Downey Jr. So,
I mean, maybe it's unrelated.
Maybe it's not unrelated.
I would not be surprised if we see Doctor Doom in
First Steps.
Although they've also said, I believe that. I think I've seen reports that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be playing multiple characters in Doomsday. So maybe it will be different versions of Doctor Doom, or maybe he's a version as Tony Stark in one
or
of those
maybe
two.
Tony Stark is Doctor Doom. We don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll all be interesting. But yeah, Thunderbolts.
It's going to break Peter Parker's heart. That's all we know.
Sure. If they ever get to actually meet again.
Yep.
Lots of good stuff there in Thunderbolts. A fun little, pleasantly surprised kind of vibes from Thunderbolts. Definitely not one that I feel like I need to, jump back and go see it again in theaters or anything like that, like I sometimes do. Like even John called out, I was like, so have you already seen this one, Trevor? I was like, no. No, this one I did not care that much about. But yeah, it was a fun, good time. And I definitely agree. I think Florence Pugh very much helps carry this movie from a performance and kind of emotional heart perspective, but also I really love what they did with Bob, and kind of showing us this guy who doesn't want to hurt people, but has his bad days, as so many of us often do. I was thinking about that meme, basically being enrolls in a medical trial and becomes a superhero instead of going to therapy. Men will do anything instead of going to therapy. Men will enroll in medical trials and become a superhero with a dark side instead of going to therapy.
Pretty much.
Very much being the Sentry character.
Yep.
Thanks, Bob.
Also, shout out to him when he's in that room explaining, he goes, yeah, so basically I was just running, going through Southeast Asia, trying to find myself, or at the very least find more drugs. Or maybe more drugs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God damn, I love Bob. Just love it. Yeah. Love Bob.
Great job from Lewis Pullman on that as well.
Yep.
All right. Well, yeah, I think that is going to do it. So any final thoughts from you, Ken, before we wrap up?
Thunderbolts go. Yeah, no. It was great.
All righty. Yes, then we are all done for this episode of That Nerdy Site Show. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to talk all about Thunderbolts. If you're still listening, you probably have already seen it. If not, weird that you listen to a spoiler cast, but for a movie that you have no opinion on yourself. But yeah, we enjoyed it. A lot of fun here. So yeah, up next on the Marvel slate is Fantastic Four: First Steps, which is that's the first one in a while I've been like, maybe we'll postpone or reschedule or think about if we're still doing that D Plus show at that time and haven't kind of fully wound things down. Like maybe we'll rethink our schedule that week so we can go see this Thursday night.
Yeah.
And basically enjoy kind of the old midnight screening vibes. And whatnot for Fantastic Four, because that's the first one in a while that I'm super excited for. But let's go around the metaphor table with any plugs we might have. You can follow Cameron at revcabot.bsky.social. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, we had a really massive That D Plus show this last week with covering episodes 1 through 6 of Andor Season 2. If you are curious how we felt about that, go enjoy that D Plus show.
Indeed, yeah. It was last week's basically first half of season 2. Then this upcoming week on that D Plus show, we're going to be doing Across the Spider-Verse because that is one of my favorites, and they moved it from Netflix to Disney Plus. So I was like, hell yeah! We still haven't done No Way Home. Still has not come to Disney Plus, and Into the Spider-Verse, I don't believe has ever been on Disney Plus. So interesting that like Across the Spider-Verse is the first one they're doing with this. But I'm here for it. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna dust off the old Spider-Man like segments and stuff that we did when we did all of the Spider-Man movies. And Logan is intending to join us for that. So stay tuned for all of that on this week's That D Plus show. And the other thing I'll shout out is, if you missed it, our full playthrough of Split Fiction is now out there. 6 parts. You can find a playlist over on youtube.com/thatnerdysite and catch all 6 episodes of Cameron and I playing through Split Fiction. It's something that easily shot to one of Cam's favorite games of the year. So, all right. You follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for listening. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.